Alright guys, this is my first time doing a voiceover for like a tutorial or anything, so I apologize if I kind of suck, but I gotta start somewhere. So I'm showing you guys me looking at reference photos. That's kind of what I do first. I make sure I kind of know or have an idea of what I'm wanting out of what I'm going to make. And that's my cat that I guess I decided to show because he likes to be in the way of everything. So hopefully I got an idea of what I was wanting to do already. That's Grey Rat. Everyone can say hi. He won't hear you, but I'll tell him. Alright, moving on. So now I kind of check out like the length I'm wanting with my measuring tape. I'm by myself, so it's a little awkward sometimes when it's a length because I'm kind of looking at to see like where it's ending. Yeah. Alright, so next I go to here. I'm sketching out. This is more for myself to really get in my head like what I'm wanting. For little projects like this, I don't really like cut out onto paper. I know this is gonna be a weird like non-professional. I will say I am not a professional. I do commissions and I do try harder than for myself on commissions. I always use patterns for commissions. So right here I'm just kind of sketching out what I'm wanting out of my tail and giving myself an idea of like what the measurements more or less should be. But I kind of have to work around how much fabric I even have because yeah. Alright, moving on to next one. We have Grey Rat again. So cats are very much involved in cosplay. If you have cats, you know how it is, unless I block them out. Alright, so here I am measuring out, kind of going according to, it looks like I have enough, at least for the length. So I'm checking the dimensions. As I said, I don't have a pattern, so this is how I do it without a pattern. I literally just lay it on there and do my measurements instead according to what my sketches said and what I had measured already before. This is not exact. If you are a perfectionist, you're probably cringing right now, and I'm sorry. I did not say this is like a professional tutorial. This is kind of how I do things. Honestly, I like people that aren't perfectionists to kind of see my tutorials, because then they don't feel as bad because they're like, oh, like this chick like makes all these costumes and this is how she does it. Okay. But I do a decent job, I guess. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Perfection right there. I don't need a freaking template. Oh, except for that weird curve. Either way, you'll see the end result when it comes out decent enough. Alright, let's see what my next thing I'm doing. I put the line down the middle. Okay, so originally I had actually pinned both sides together, but you're supposed to cut out like one piece at a time for the fur. And you can, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, okay, so I got this board. You do not want to cut through the fur because you have to use a razor to cut fur. It gets everywhere if you use scissors. The scissors cut through the fur on the other side and they leave a mess. So I was taught to use like a razor, like I have an exact, see, I'm saying no. I knew I would tell you guys that. So you cut at the end and it's good. It just cuts through the piece that's actually holding on the fur, and it cuts really well if you guys have a sharp blade. So it's really easy. I used to use scissors and hate it, and I was like, why is there fur everywhere? Mind you, there still will be fur everywhere. Everywhere. So here I am just cutting, going crazy. And I'm still cutting at the ends, making sure it's all kind of lined up. And just kind of cutting through. I keep that little board underneath it, the plastic thing, because yeah, you don't want to cut through your laminate or your carpet underneath, whatever you have. And then I kind of rip off the pieces, not rip, but you know, I kind of pull away because there's a few parts that were connected. I actually stabbed myself underneath my nail. Sorry if you guys don't like nail stuff, but yeah, be careful with those things. Here I had already cut out the pieces of white. I don't like how I cut them out that well. That's probably why I cut it up a little bit. Anyway, so I'm layering up the fur facing each other so I can pin it and get ready to sew. And as I pin it, I kind of stuff the fur. I'm not sure if I show it in here. but I kind of like try, I guess I'm not, oh yeah, you can kind of see. I try to stuff the fur as much as I can because it looks really weird and awkward. Yeah, see, I'm mad that I like pranked myself in the same thumb. I'm always hurting my thumbs. Anyone else, any like thumb abusers in here? Whatever. So, I'm just pinning, I'm shoving the fur in there to make sure it's kind of like sealed a little bit decently. You obviously can't keep it all in there, but it'll still look fine, and I'll show you how I kind of deal with that afterward. Let's see what's happening next shot. Here we have me sewing. Fun fact, I never took a class for sewing. I was taught basic like stitches and sewing from my mom because she used to sew, and so I kind of was explained how to use my beginner sewing machine and just a few tips from the internet. But I honestly have a hard time just sitting and learning, so a lot of mine's trial error or just cringy like, what are you doing kind of deal. But it gets done, right? It gets done. Here I am just sewing all the white pieces. I kind of like sew them away where they have a little bit more like, they kind of, I don't know, it's kind of weird. I don't even know what I'm saying. Skipping on. And then here I am now adding the white to the red parts. And so we'll see how that's going to turn out. You just have to, you know, just doing the same thing, pinning over each piece. And so, yeah, I don't know. Okay, so here I am just sewing the white parts on now. So each, like, pretty much you made your pattern, you know, out of your fur, and you're just sewing all the pieces together. Feel free to ask questions, though, if I'm not explaining this right, because even as I'm watching, I'm like, it's a little weird because I made this, like, days ago, and now I'm explaining it. I'm used to just kind of explaining as I go, and so yeah. Alright, so here I am just kind of stuffing the rest. So now that that kind of got sewn and everything, I'm just like, okay, yeah, I got it sewn. Looks a little weird. Everything's just like with fur, you kind of have to trim edges and stretch it out and everything. It's a little weird the way I did the patterning. But it'll look fine once it's flipped out inside out. So you leave a hole. Obviously, you have to leave a hole, but do not sew everything closed because then, yeah, you can't stuff it. So yes, leave the hole at the top. I usually leave it at the top, and I'll show you another reason why I leave that open up there. So then I sew this, and here I am. I'm like, okay, cool, I sewed it all, and then it's a sleeve, and you're done. And then you take it out. Oh, I'm so glad it was like a big piece. I hate having to flip out like little tubes or little like details. Alright, next. Oh, we start the stuffing. Oh, and we're starting some, we got some dancing. Cue music.
Please talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
Okay, so anyway, back to stuffing. Shove it in there. Get them mashed taters in there. Yep, shake it. Get it. Get it, girl. So you frantically stuff it because you're late. Oh, and you show it off. You gotta do the poses. Like, you gotta feel good about yourself. Work it. Just work it at this point. Look at, there you go. Yeah. Alright, shake it. Make sure it's dead. I mean, fluff it up like a pillow. You're like, yes. And then I begin to brush. So this is what I do to kind of pull out the last, like the fur that gets a little stuck in the seams. I just kind of brush at it and make sure it kind of fits nicely. And the next thing I'm going to do is cutting these pieces from muslin fabric, just kind of like some cheap pattern fabric, and I'm going to make more of like a little loop that the ribbon can go through. That's how I'm going to use it to like kind of tie. There's different ways to attach a tail. The easier way for me is just putting like this little loop thing, and then I have that. So I guess I had to end up sewing it because my sewing machine did not want to go through all that fur. So old school style, I showed you my needle to make sure you know what a needle looks like. And let's speed it up so we don't have to sit here for 5 years like we already kind of have. Alright, I'm figuring it out, and the thread kept coming out of the needle because I suck and it was getting stuck. So you just kind of roughly sew through the fur, and then you get the ribbon through once it's in there. Pull through. There you go. You can tie it around your waist and it fits. There you go.